Hello, very good morning, class 10 students. How are you all? I hope you all are keeping yourself safe indoor and doing the necessary steps strictly to avoid the infection of COVID-19. Please follow the instructions supplied by the authority and don't be casual about it. Now let's move in our chapter. Okay, due to some unavoidable situation of lockdown, today we will learn from our text only. Today we'll read mechanism of breathing. Okay, so that is we will learn how the air is sucked into our lungs during inhalation and how air from our lungs is pushed out during exhalation. Therefore, breathing involves movements of the rib cage and the diaphragm in our body. Breathing involves movement of the rib cage and the diaphragm of our body. Let's see how it happens. In the first step, that is breathing in, when we breathe in or inhale, two things happen at the same time. The muscles between the ribs contract. I repeat, muscles between the ribs contract, causing the rib cage to move upward as well as outward. This is the first event. And second, number 2, the diaphragm contracts and moves downward. Let us look at the figure. Figure number A. When we breathe in, first the muscles between the ribs contract, causing the rib cage to move upward and outward. And the diaphragm contract and moves downward. Therefore, the upward and outward movement of rib cage as well as the downward movement of diaphragm both increase the space in the chest cavity and make it large. Therefore, as the chest cavity becomes larger, air is sucked in from outside into the lungs. And the lungs get filled up with air and expand. That is how we breathe in air into our lungs. Next occurrence, breathing out or exhalation. When we breathe out, even then two things happen at the same time. Number 1, the muscles between the ribs relax. Let us see in the figure. Muscles between the ribs relax, causing the rib cage to move downward and inward. Causing the rib cage to move downward and inward. And next event, the diaphragm relaxes and it moves upward. That is, it comes back to its original position. So the downward and inward movement of the rib cage as well as the upward movement of diaphragm both decrease the space in our chest cavity, which pushes the air out. So as the chest cavity becomes smaller, air is pushed out from the lungs. So these two are the events occurring during inhalation and exhalation. You have to draw these two diagrams, students. Draw these diagrams, practice, and also practice the description of these events. The human lungs have been designed to maximize the exchange of gases. It happens as follows. There are millions of alveoli in the lungs. The presence of millions of alveoli in the lungs provides a large surface area for the exchange of gases. The availability of large surface area maximizes the exchange of gases. For example, if all alveoli from the two human lungs are unfolded, made to be unfolded, they would give an area of surprisingly about 80 square meters, which is nearly the size of a tennis court. The diaphragm is a sheet of muscle below the lungs It helps in breathing in and breathing out. Just now we have read that how the rib muscles and the diaphragm both help in breathing in and breathing out. Now we will see the detailed structure of alveoli. Each bronchus divides in the lungs to form a large number of still smaller tubes called bronchioles. Then the smallest bronchioles have tiny air sacs. The smallest bronchioles have the tiny air sacs at their ends. The pouch-like air sacs at the ends of the smallest bronchioles are called alveoli. The walls of alveoli are very thin and are surrounded by very thin blood capillaries. It is in the alveoli that oxygen is taken into the body and carbon dioxide is eliminated. In other words, it is in the alveoli that gaseous exchange takes place. So human lungs have been designed to maximize the exchange of gases because availability of large surface area maximize the exchange of gases. Here we can see in this diagram, alveoli is surrounded by thin walled blood capillaries. Here it is showing the thinnest branch of artery and which form the capillary over the alveoli, and here it is showing the branch of vein which is carrying the blood out of the lungs. The last branches of bronchiole ending in the alveoli during the process of breathing in, air sacs or alveoli of the lungs get filled with air containing oxygen. Alveoli are surrounded by very thin blood vessels called capillaries carrying blood in them. So the oxygen of air diffuses out from the alveoli walls into the blood. Oxygen is carried by blood to all the parts of the body because this oxygen is carried by a red pigment called hemoglobin present in blood. So as the blood passes through the tissues of the body, oxygen is present in it, diffuses into the cells. Here in this diagram we can see blood flowing from the tissues carrying carbon dioxide gas. In the capillaries, CO2 enters in alveolus. Here there is the site of exchange of gases. CO2 entering alveolus, oxygen coming out of alveolus and enters in the blood. Oxygen enters blood capillaries and blood flowing from alveolus carrying oxygen, more concentration of oxygen. Therefore, here we can see exchange of gases, carbon dioxide and oxygen gas, and the site of exchange is alveolus. Carbon dioxide gas is produced as a waste product during respiration in the cells of the body. This carbon dioxide diffuses into blood because of its higher concentration in the tissue. Blood carries the carbon dioxide back to the lungs where it diffuses into alveoli. When we breathe out air, diaphragm and the muscles of the ribs relax, and therefore chest cavity pushes this CO2 rich air out of our body. In this way, process of gaseous exchange is completed inside human respiratory system. Although even after a forceful exhalation, some amount of air remains inside the lungs. This is known as residual volume. Residual volume is the amount of gas remaining in the lungs at the end of a maximum exhalation. That is, even after we have expelled maximum air, still gaseous exchange is occurring in the lungs by this residual volume of air in the lungs. Therefore, it's very important to note that even after a forceful exhalation, some amount of air remains in the lungs, in the alveolus, due to which gaseous exchange still goes on. So the only difference in the inhaled air and exhaled air we can see here is that they contain different proportion of oxygen, carbon dioxide and water vapor. In this given table you can see, and you can note down even, that what are the percentage of oxygen, carbon dioxide and water vapor in both inhaled air and exhaled air. In inhaled air, oxygen about 21%, whereas it is only 16% in case of exhaled air. Carbon dioxide 0.04% approximately in inhaled air, which is up to 4.4% in the exhaled air. Exhaled air contain lot of water vapor, because already we have read that products of respiration, cellular respiration, are carbon dioxide and water vapor. So we are at the end of this topic, respiration, both external and internal respiration. So at the end of this topic, your first question is, why the rate of breathing in aquatic animals is much faster than the terrestrial one? This is question number 1. Question number 2, why diffusion is insufficient to fulfill the oxygen requirement in multicellular organisms? So these are the types of questions, NCERT based questions. Therefore, please read the lesson and write down the answers of NCERT in-text questions and exercise questions. Thank you very much. Stay safe till next class.